we pick it up where we left off there. Does anybody have any questions or comments about what we read so far? Everything's been pretty straightforward. It's just talking about the cities of refuge. They divided how the land was divided up, which I still need to get a map together, kind of, because I'm more a visual learner than I am. If I have it, I can see it. It kind of maps it out a little bit. And then it also talks about the cities of refuge, and we all know what that is. It's a place where if you accidentally kill your neighbor, not even mean to, without malice, and it was like, well, my axe head flew off and hit him in the head, you could go there to avoid the avenger of blood, which we also kind of discussed from our last of it. We weren't sure if it was somebody was labeled as that to do that. We didn't know if it's family. It could be a possible one too, and you need to look a little more into it. But so to avoid that, but if you did intentionally the malice, did intentionally do that, you go there and they see that, hey, you're actually you hated your brother and you did that to him, so the Avenger Blood could have their way with you, and that's how it was. But if you were not, and if you were actually, if it was incidental, you could remain there until the jury or whatever the judges at the time would see that you were innocent, or until that priest of that city would pass away. Then you were free to leave and go back to where you were from. All right. And then chapter 21 talks about the cities of Levites. Does anybody have any questions or comments or any questions? Anybody learn anything before we got into this? Okay, we'll start there. It says chapter 21 verse 1 says, then the heads of the fathers' houses of Levites came near to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the children of Israel, and they spoke to them at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, saying, the Lord commanded through Moses to give us cities to dwell in, with their common lands for our livestock. So the common lands, it's about so far away around the city. It's where they keep their livestock. There might be a little village or two just kind of dotted along the outside, maybe, possibly. But that's how you have a city and a little bit of land around it to kind of, so they keep their livestock and things like that. That's what they refer to as common lands for our livestock. So verse 3, so the children of Israel gave the Levites from their inheritance at the command of the Lord these cities and their common lands. Now the lot came out for the families of the Kohathites, and the children of Aaron the priest, who were the Levites, had 13 cities by lot from the tribe of Judah, from the tribe of Simeon, from the tribe of Benjamin, and the rest of the children of Kohath had 10 cities by lot from the families of the tribe of Ephraim, and the tribe of Dan, and from the half tribe of Manasseh. And the children of Gershon had 13 cities by lot of the families of the tribe of Issachar, from the tribe of Asher, from the tribe of Naphtali, from the half tribe of Manasseh and Bashan. The children of Merari, according to the family, had 12 cities from the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and from the tribe of Zebulun. So they're kind of being, so what we're seeing now is, instead of just the section parts, they broke the Levites down into families. Whatever family is in this Levi, you guys control these cities. You guys stay in these cities. This is where you're going to be. So they instead of, now they broke everything by tribe. Now for Levites, they broke it down into families and said, all right, you get these cities in this area, you get cities in this area, in this tribe's land. So they're breaking it up among the families of the Levites, within the Levites. And then the children of Merari, according to the families, had 12 cities from the tribe of Reuben, from the tribe of Gad, and from the tribe of Zebulun. And the children of Israel gave these cities with their common lands by lot to the Levites, as the Lord commanded, by the hand of Moses. Which they all discussed that back in Deuteronomy, and then also in Numbers, and also just kind of discussed that. So we know that was their promise. So they gave them the tribe of the children of Judah, from the tribe of the children of Simeon, these cities which are designated by name, which were for the children of Aaron, one of the families of the Kohathites, who were the children of Levi, for Lot was theirs first. And they gave to Kirjath Abra. Abra was the father of Anak, which is in Hebron, in the mountains of Judah, with the common land surrounding it, and the fields of the city and its village, and they gave to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, as his possession. Thus the children of Aaron, the priest, they gave to Hebron, and its common land, a city refuge for the slayer. Libnah, with its common land, Jeter, with its common land, Eshtma with its common land, Holon with its common land, Debir with its common land, Ayin with its common land, Jutta with its common land, and Beth Shesm with its common land. 9 cities from those 2 tribes. And the tribe of Benjamin, Gibeon with its common land, and Geba with its common land, Anath with its common land, Almon with its common land. 4 cities. All the cities of the children of Aaron, the priests, were 13 cities with their common lands. And the families of the children of Kohath, the Levites, the rest of the children of the Kohath, even they had the cities of their lot from the tribe of Ephraim. From they gave them Shechem with its common land in the mountains of Ephraim, the city of refuge for the slayer. So they tell you what cities are their actual refuge cities. Gezer with its common land, Kibziam with its common land, and Beth Horon with its common land. 4 cities. And from the tribe of Dan, Eltekeh with its common land, Gibbethon with its common land, Ajalon with its common land, and Gath Rimmon with its common land. 4 cities. And from the half tribe of Manasseh, Tanakh with its common land, and Gath Rimmon with its common land. 2 cities. All the 10 cities with their common lands were the rest of the families of the children of Kohath. Also the children of Gershon, from the families of the Levites. And from the other half tribe of Manasseh, they gave Golan in Bashan with its common land, that's a refuge city as well. And Eshtra with its common land, 2 cities. And from the tribe of Eskar, Kishon with its common land, Debrath with its common land, Jarmuth with its common land, and En Genium with its common land. 4 cities from the tribe of Asher, Mishal with its common land, Abdon with its common land, Helkath with its common land, and Rehob with its common land. 4 cities. And from the tribe of Naphtali, Kadesh and Galilee with its common land, a city of which is a city refuge, Hamath Dor with its common land, and Kartan with its common land. 3 cities. All the cities of the Gershonites, according to the families, were 13 cities in their common lands. And the families of the children of Merari, the rest of the Levites from the tribe of Zebulun, Jokneam with its common land, Kartha with its common land, and Dimnah with its common land, and Nahala with its common land. 4 cities from the tribe of Reuben, Bezor with its common land, Jaza with its common land, Kedemoth with its common land, and Mephath with its common land. 4 cities from the tribe of Gad is Ramoth and Gilead and its common land, a city of refuge. Mahanaim with its common land, Heshbon with its common land, and Jazer with its common land. 4 cities in all. So all the cities for the children of Merari, according to families, rest of the Levites, were by their lot 12 cities. All the cities Levites within the possession of children of Israel were 48 cities with their common lands. Every one of these cities had its common land surrounding it. Thus were all these cities. So they have 48 in total, as is with the whole tribe of Levites. They had 48. Now this is talking about a promise fulfilled. Verse 43 says, "So the Lord gave to Israel all land in which he had sworn to give their fathers. Then they took possession of it and dwelt in it. The Lord gave them rest all around, according to all that he had sworn to their fathers, and not a man of all their enemies stood against them. The Lord delivered all their enemies to their hands, not a word failed of any good thing which the Lord had spoken to the house of Israel. All came to pass." So they're saying all this came to pass. No one's going to bother them for a while. They have peace. Now we know later. Now remember, they're still held to the promise that they were to be. They're still held to the covenant there. As long as they follow him, obey his command, do what he's told them to do. But like all humans, do they accomplish that? No. And we do see the effects of that later. Does anybody have any questions or comments about what we read so far?
These land, okay?
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
King James calls it suburbs, and we know suburbs today is outside of the main city, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yes.
where they all were given land.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he made sure that every one of them had and renowned.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way God set
Mhm.
it up for them.
Amen. And he also gave them to be able to somewhat be self-sufficient as well, so that way they could be able to partake in things as well. And the Lord's like, yeah, I'm going to take care of you, but I'm going to teach you how to take care of yourself as well. So I'm going to give you some common land around it. So it is very. He had, like you said, he set things out the way he wanted to. They got all these, and I'm sure the way they're dotted out, I'm sure they're all probably, within reason, within range. People could go to travel if they need to travel somewhere to worship. If they don't have a temple or tabernacle in their area, they can at least go to one of these cities and worship there. Now, like today? Does everybody go? No, but they do have the opportunity to go to these places.
He made it possible for everyone else to
Mm-hmm.
that time.
Yeah, exactly. And 48 cities a lot, and you kind of dot it around. And people, they travel by foot, and it'd be tough, but people done it, and they done it then, and never seemed to gripe about it too much. So it was within reason where they can go and they could worship. Does anybody have any questions or comments about any of that? Kind of like what we do with our churches around here. We got them dotted around. Everything's perfect within good reason. You ain't got to drive too far. Or if you have to walk, you ain't got to walk too far to get to one. So, all right. Chapter 22. It says, Then Joshua called the Reubenites and Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh said to them, You have kept all that Moses the servant of the Lord commanded you, and have obeyed my voice and all that I commanded you. So here, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the other half tribe Manasseh, we know that they took the land. That hey, could we have this inheritance across the before we cross Jordan? Can we have our inheritance? That's who we're talking about. Now all this is over. Everybody's conquered everything. Everybody's kind of got everything situated. I believe now at this point, he's like, okay, y'all can go back. Y'all can go back over, enjoy your land. And I'm sure the other half of Manasseh that was on their side of the Jordan probably was still remaining in the area. So he tells them, You have kept all what you've been commanded. You have not left your brethren, verse 3, these many days up to this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of the Lord your God. And now the Lord your God has given rest to your brethren, as he has promised them. Now therefore return and go to your tents into the land of your possession, which Moses the servant of the Lord gave you on the other side of Jordan. But take careful heed to do the commandment of the law which Moses the servant of the Lord commanded you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways and keep his commandments, to hold fast to him and serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. Now, to the half tribe of Manasseh, Moses had given possession in Bashan, but the other half of it Joshua gave possession among their brethren on this side of the Jordan, westward. And indeed, when Joshua sent them away to their tents, he blessed them and spoke to them, saying, Return with much riches to your tents, with very much livestock, with silver, with gold and bronze, with iron, and very much clothing. Divide the spoil of your enemies with your brethren. So the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh returned and departed from the children of Israel at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go to the country of Gilead, to the land of their possessions, which they had obtained according to the word of the Lord by the hand of Moses. And when they had come to the region of the Jordan, which is in the land of Canaan, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half tribe of Manasseh built an altar there by Jordan, a great impressive altar. Now the children of Israel heard someone say, Behold, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half tribe of Manasseh have built an altar on the frontier of land of Canaan in the region of Jordan on the children of Israel's side. And the children of Israel heard of it. And the whole congregation of children of Israel gathered together at Shiloh to go to war against them. So they didn't make it back yet. And they built an altar. And everybody's like, hold on. You weren't even supposed to do this. Now they're about to go to war over this. And I do have a little talk about this. It talks about the altar built by the 2.5 tribes near the river. Though probably well meant, it did arouse suspicions among the western tribes. They feared rebellion against the Shiloh altar and served all the tribes in unity. When challenged, many of the eastern tribes explained their motives to follow the true God, be in unity with the rest of Israel. but not regarded as outsiders. The explanation met with other Israelites' approval. So here we know later they're going to talk about this because it's the show of unity, but they're like, hold on. So rumors probably got out is what happened. And there's some people's like, well, hold on, they built an altar. Why do they build an altar on this side of Jordan? What are they doing? Are they going to follow the gods again? What are they doing? So now they're about to go to war. But I mean, they haven't got back to their side yet, and the rest of Israel are ready to hack them down, really. So it says, verse 13, the children of Israel sent Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, the half tribe of Manasseh, into the land of Gilead, and with him 10 rulers. One ruler, each from the chief house of every tribe of Israel, and each one was the head of the house of his father among the divisions of Israel. And they came the children of Reuben to the children of Gad, and to the half tribe of Manasseh, and led in the land of Gilead. And they spoke to them, saying, thus says the whole congregation of the Lord, what treachery is this that you committed against the God of Israel? To turn away this day from the following the Lord, and that you have built yourselves an altar that you might rebel this day against the Lord? Is the iniquity of Peor not enough for us, from which we have not cleansed till this day, although there was a plague in the congregation of the Lord, but that you must turn away this day from following the Lord? And it shall be, if you rebel today against the Lord, that tomorrow he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel. So once again, they're coming forward and they're like, why'd you build this altar over here? Because you already decided that you're going to go chase after other gods. Wasn't Peor enough? Like, didn't we learn a lesson the first time? And so they're really like, why'd you do this to us?
That's an example of not having all of the information.
Exactly.
Before they started making such a list. They did do something right though.
They went and talked to him first.
And in fact, their thoughts were that they were making a altar to either worship Baal or somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what they were doing was making an altar exactly like the one that was in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could worship on the altar.
Mm-hmm. And because they are on the other side of the Jordan, they're in. I guess another their concern is that they may be seen as outsiders at this point. They don't want to be recognized as that because they're still part of Israel. They're still part of that congregation. Even though they may not have crossed over the Jordan fully, they're still part of the congregation.
They got the okay
Mm-hmm.
to be able to stay on that side because they liked the land and the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
So they got the okay to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They okay to do that, and then you go with us.
Mm-hmm.
Got all the other land, and then you can come back, and that's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So they fulfilled all that.
Amen.
They got a little bit of information about them building that altar, but they didn't do it all. So they went to fight for it.
Exactly. And granted, if they did what they probably would have done to give Gideon and all that, they probably would have made some bad decisions and regret it later. Which, like you said, they did the right thing. They actually went over and talked to them before they were marching over with armies and saying, "Why'd you do this?" And by that time, the damage is done. So they did avoid war as far as we can see here, but we'll keep on going. Okay. Verse 19, nevertheless, in the land of possession is unclean, then cross over to the land of possession of the Lord, where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and take possession among us. Do not rebel against our Lord, nor rebel against us, by building yourselves an altar besides the altar of the Lord our God. Did not Achan the son of Zeram commit a trespass in the accursed thing, and wrath fell on all the congregation of Israel? And that man did not perish alone in his iniquity? So they're reminding them. It's kind of like, well, hold on. You're rebelling. We think you're rebelling against the Lord here. Why are you doing it? Because they're throwing these examples at him. It's like, look, did they, if you do it, it's going to hurt all of us. And the thing is, he may have perished his iniquity, but he wasn't the only one. So, because it affects all of us, is what they're saying. So what they're telling them is like, well, get out of this land over here. We'll rearrange everything. Just leave there. Come over here. We'll sort everything out. If you're going to start that, just come on over, is what they're telling them too, because they didn't want to. They said, we'd rather divide our land up more and have y'all over here than have y'all over here and causing iniquity on all of us, is what they're pretty much boiling down to.
They looking back at history, what happened when the fellow committed the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of them, they all suffered.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them more than others.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking back and saying, if you do this, that's what they thought they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to affect every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
So doing the right thing by going over and talking with them and
Mhm.
get things squared away.
Exactly. And that's probably the best way that we should always do things is just get information before we go at arms to get somebody, whether it's verbal or physical, whatever it may be. And so verse 21 says, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half tribe Manasseh answered said to the heads of the divisions of Israel, Lord God of gods, the Lord God of gods. He knows, and let Israel itself know. If it is in rebellion, or if in the treachery against the Lord, do not save us this day. If we have built ourselves an altar to turn from following the Lord, or if to offer on it burnt offerings or grain offerings, or if to offer peace offerings on it, let the Lord himself require an account. But in fact, we have done it for fear, for reason saying, in time to come your descendants may speak of our descendants, saying, what have you to do with the Lord of God of Israel? For the Lord has made the Jordan a border between you and us, you children of Reuben and children of Gad. You have no part in the Lord. So your descendants will make our descendants cease fearing the Lord. So here, this is what they're more or less saying is like, they're like, well, you're going to use the Jordan as a barrier between you and us. So later on, descendants, it's probably going to be some bad blood saying later sayings like, well, the Lord put you on this side, so you must have nothing to do with us. That's what they were concerned for. They were like, we did this so that way we won't forget where we're from, and that way you guys don't forget where we're from. We're all together in this. This is trying to show that their unity, because even though they're on that side of the Jordan, their concerns is, and if not then, later in the descendants, they're going to forget that they're part of the tribe. They're part of Israel. They're going to forget that. And Israel's probably going to forget that as well. And they're going to be like, well, we don't know who they are. And that's what their concerns was. That was the reason why they built this altar. That's what they're trying to explain to them. All right, back to 26. Therefore we said, let us now prepare to build ourselves an altar, not for burnt offerings, nor for sacrifice, but that it may be a witness between you and us and our generations after us, that we may perform the service of the Lord before him with our burnt offerings, with our sacrifices, and with our peace offerings, that your descendants may not say to our descendants in time to come, you have no part in the Lord. Therefore, we said that it will be when they say this to us, to our generations in time to come, that we may say, here is the replica of the altar of the Lord which our fathers made, though not for burnt offerings nor for sacrifices, but it is a witness between you and us. Far be it from us that we should rebel against the Lord and turn from the following of the Lord this day, to build an altar for burnt offerings, for grain offerings, or for sacrifices, besides the altar of the Lord our God, which is before his tabernacle. Now when Phinehas the priest, the ruler of the congregation, the heads of the division of Israel who were with him, heard the words of the children of Reuben, and the children of Gad and the children of Manasseh spoke, it pleased them. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, said to the children of Reuben, the children of Gad and the children of Manasseh, this day we perceive the Lord is among us, because you have not committed this treachery against the Lord. Now you have delivered the children of Israel out of the land of the Lord. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, the ruler, returned from the children of Reuben and the children of Gad, and from the land of Gilead to the land of Canaan, the children of Israel, and brought back word to them. So the thing pleased the children of Israel, and the children of Israel blessed God. They spoke no more of going against them in battle, to destroy the land where the children of Reuben and the Gad dwelt. The children of Reuben and the children of Gad called the altar a witness, for it is a witness between us that the Lord is God. So, well, really put it simply, it was a witness. And so now they have this witness here, and they're showing that we're not going to use it for any sort of sacrifices or burnt offerings, but it's to show that we have a connection with you guys. It's a reminder for us, a reminder for you, that we're not just over here to be over here. We are part of God. We are of the Lord as well as you are. That's what they're more or less saying. And that's what it was going down to. And when they heard this, they're like, okay, that's fine. We see what you're coming from now. It's going to be a reminder. It's a witness. We got you. And so they went back. It resolved pretty well. So they almost had a war. Let's put it that way. They almost had a war right out of the gate. But the thing is, if you notice, it didn't say anything about the Lord getting angry with them, because he was already well aware of this, we would assume. He knew from the start. He didn't arouse. There was no plagues. But granted, I think he also gave the children of Israel time to actually work this out among themselves. And they did, actually, more appropriately than I thought it would be. But but the thing is, it all got stirred up by rumors, really. of people saying, "Oh my gosh, they're going to burn offerings. Oh my gosh, they're already following Baal again." Apparently peor was not enough for them, and so it's interesting how a lot of things explode like that.
You see that today, don't you?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Does anybody have questions or comments about that little stretch there? Okay. All right, chapter 23. It says, "Now it came to pass a long time after the Lord had given rest to Israel from all their enemies round about, and Joshua was old, advanced in age." And granted, Joshua was not very young when they were conquering Israel either, or Canaan, but he's gotten even older. So this has been about, I would think, about 15, 20 years down the road. Just my guesstimate there. And it says, "And Joshua called for all Israel, for the elders, and for their heads, for their judges, and for their officers, and said to them, I am old, advanced in age. You have seen all the land your God has done to all these nations because of you. For Lord your God is he who has fought for you. See, I have divided to you by lot these nations that remain, to be inheritance for your tribes from the Jordan with all the nations that I have cut off, as far as the great sea westward. And the Lord your God will expel them from before you and drive them out of your sight, so you shall possess the land, as the Lord your God promised you. Therefore, be very courageous to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, lest you turn aside from it to the right hand or to the left, unless you go among these nations, these who remain among you. You shall not make mention of the name of their gods, nor cause anyone to swear by them. You shall not serve nor bow down to them." So what he's talking about is some of the agreements of these other nations that they didn't completely wipe out. That's what he's talking about. He says, "These nations that dwell among you, our little servants at this point, do not bow down to their gods. Don't bring mention to them. Don't even say their names. Don't swear by their gods, because once you bow down, once you swear by them, you're getting caught up in their riffraff," is what he's saying. Don't get caught up in that. Be careful. Follow the Lord. Do what he's written out. So Josh was warning them, but also reminding them, just like everybody else, we need constant reminders. He's like, remember to follow what was written. We talked about this multiple times before we crossed Jordan. Talked about this multiple times when we got across Jordan. I'm talking about it again. Stay with it is what he's telling them. Because if we don't stay with it, we do go off to the left, or to the right, to the left. so all that. All right. Verse 8. "But you shall hold fast the Lord your God, as you have done to this day. For the Lord has driven out from before you great and strong nations. But as for you, no one has been able to stand against you to this day. One man of you shall chase 1,000, for the Lord your God is he who fights for you, as he promised you. Therefore, take careful heed to yourselves that you love the Lord your God, or else, if you do go back and cling to the remnant of these nations, these that remain among you, and make marriages with them and go into them, and they to you, know for certain the Lord your God will no longer drive out these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps for you, and scourges on your sides and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land which the Lord your God has given you. Behold, this day I am going the way of all the earth, and you know in all your hearts and all your souls that not one thing has failed of all the good things the Lord your God is concerning you. All have come to pass for you. Not one word of them has failed. Therefore it shall come to pass that as all the good things have come upon you, which the Lord your God has promised you, so the Lord will bring upon you all harmful things till he has destroyed you from this good land, which the Lord your God has given you. When you have transgressed the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and have gone and served other gods, and bowed down with them, then the anger of the Lord will burn against you, and you shall perish quickly from the good land which he has given you." So once again, he's warned them, reminded them that you made a covenant with him. He's kept his covenant, and he's continue to keep his covenant. Now you got to keep yours. Remember, there's adverse effects when you don't keep your covenant. And he said that's what's happening. And he says, don't go away. Don't mess this up. Keep doing what the Lord tells you to do, and we'll be fine. In chapter 20, does anybody have questions or comments about any of that so far?
Yes, It's kind of just farewell address, and
Mm-hmm. It is.
leave them and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives them directions like Moses did when he was about to die. So
Mm-hmm.
he's giving them farewell advice.
It's kind of a common thing which we've seen any sort of head that God put at the head of Israel, whether from Abraham up, when they're about to pass away, they gathered everybody together and they talked to them. Like you said, they gave them their final direction, and told them, hey, this is what you might want to do. This is not something you want to follow. You know, hey, please do this in honor of me as well, kind of thing too. So that's what he's more or less talking about, because that is his final address. It is his. He's going to pass away, like you said, Brother Dummer.
Yeah. He gave kind of the same advice that Moses did.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go into that. Don't go make marriages with them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let, if you do, they're going to pull you away. They're going to have you follow after
Mm-hmm.
their gods instead of leave God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened in the time of they started mingling with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, remember, they those folks were worshiping idols and was probably doing some very profane acts that no one should be doing. Yet they were spared. Cunningly, they spared themselves, but they were spared. And so, in God, there's a reason why He's like, I want that gone. That land, they need to be purged from that land. Well, now you have that living among you. Now He's warning them, don't fall in that, because you'll be doing the same thing what they're doing. The very thing that God thought was abominations that they were doing, you're going to be doing it as well if you fall in that. Because whatever gods they're worshiping, whether it's Baal or some other thing, don't get caught in it, is what he's more or less saying. Don't get caught in it. All right, we'll continue on in chapter 24.
Worship of the Baals, but not the Baals.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's pretty good. The Baals, but not the Baals. I like that. That's pretty good. Just don't get your bells and bales mixed up. Verse 24. Then Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and called for the elders of Israel, for their heads, for their judges, and for their officers. And they presented themselves before God. And Joshua said to all the people, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, your fathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham, and the fathers of Nahor, dwelt on the other side of the river in old times, and they served the other gods. Then I took your father Abraham from the other side of the river, led him throughout all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his descendants, and gave him Isaac. To Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. To Esau I gave the mountains of Seir to possess, but Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. Also I sent Moses and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt according to what I did among them. Afterward I brought you out. So, what later is going to happen, they're going to make a covenant, but he's also using this to remind them of literally where they came from. They said the father of Abraham, which was Terah, they were worshiping other gods. Abraham, believe it or not, was worshiping other gods before God called him. God chose Abraham. He was chosen. God chose Abraham and pulled him out. And so he says here, he pulled Abraham out of that, brought him over, God guided him, led him, and then God made a promise with Abraham. He multiplied his descendants through Isaac. Isaac was given Jacob and Esau, and we kind of know what happened with Jacob and Esau. Esau got this over here. Jacob went down to Egypt. He says, well, I didn't forget about you. Got you out of Egypt. Now here we are. Then I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you came to the sea by the Egyptians pursued your fathers with chariots and horsemen to the Red Sea. So they cried to the Lord, and he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, brought the sea upon them, and covered them. And your eyes saw what I did in Egypt, and you dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And I brought you into the land of the Amorites, who dwelt on the other side of the Jordan, and they fought with you. But I gave them into your hand, that you might possess their land, and I destroyed them from you. Then Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, arose to make war against Israel, and sent and called Balaam, the son of Beor, to curse you, but I would not listen to Balaam. Therefore he continued to bless you. So I delivered you out of his hand. Then you went over to Jordan and came to Jericho. And the men of Jericho fought against you. Also the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, But I delivered them into your hand, and I sent the hornet before you, which drove them out from before you. Also 2 kings Amorites, but not with your sword or with your bow. I have given you a land for which you did not labor, and cities which you did not build. And you dwell in them, and you eat the vines, the vineyards, the olive groves which you did not plant. Now therefore, fear the Lord, serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods of your fathers, of which your fathers served on the other side of the river and in Egypt. Serve the Lord. And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, I will serve the Lord. I think everybody memorized that. Verse 16. So the people answered and said, Far be it from us that we would forsake the Lord to serve our gods. For the Lord our God is he who brought us and our fathers up out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way that we went along. Sorry, I can't talk. Who did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way that we went, and among all the people though whom we passed. And the Lord drove out from before us all the people, including the Amorites, who dwelt in the land. We also will serve the Lord, for he is our God. So Joshua kind of gave him this thing. He's like, if you think you do whatever, but we all know what's going to happen if you did do whatever. But he says, but as for me, in my house, I know what's best. I know who's been taking care of us. I know who's been keeping his promises. I'm going to follow God. And because he said all these things, that God did wonderful wonders for us. He chosen Abraham, which means he chosen us because we're part of the multitude. We're the promised people that God promised Abraham. And then he pulled us out of the land of Egypt, did wonderful wonders, even though they may not have seen it, but they've heard it. They're like maybe the first or the second generation after that happened. So they know this stuff. It's fresh. It's still very fresh. Then some of them have seen the wonders while they were in Canaan, so they've seen it. So he's reminding them, remember who's been taking care of us, who's made the promise and fulfilled it. These other gods, they can't eat, see or smell. They can't even answer your questions. So let alone. But if you want, he says, but he's like, if you want to do that, fine. But as a testimony, I'm going to follow God. He's the one that made his promise. He's the one that's fulfilled this. He's the one that's been with us and been fighting our fights for us. I'm going to follow him. So that was kind of what they're saying. And of course, Israel's response is, well, we're going to stick with God. Joshua, you're right. We're going to stick with God because he's the one. Well, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for God, which really pretty much wouldn't be. If God didn't choose Abraham, they may be wherever Abraham's from. And then if God decided not to, they would still be in Egypt, and so on and so forth. So God's been providing for them this whole time, and now I guess now a lot of it's starting to click in that God's been with us this whole time, and he's provided what we needed, and he's kept his promises. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Old habits die hard.
Oh, that they do.
And that when you go back to the first part of this chapter, when we're talking about Abraham came and they were serving gods on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
All Abraham out of that.
Mm-hmm.
To this side, they showed him who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And God to Abraham, the God.
Mm-hmm.
But he knows also that it's hard for people to break those habits sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's warning them about trying to serve other gods and go back on them.
Amen.
And look at what God has given to them, what God has done.
Amen.
And none of the other gods can do that. That's
Amen.
Said.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I agree, is, the old habits die hard, but at the same time, this generation, as far as we know, hasn't followed any other gods. They were taught what they were supposed to be taught. So at this point, they should be adjusted, but like you said, old habits die hard. and now they do have these other people dwelling among them that do worship these other gods. And so now they're going to have some tough times in which Abraham warned them, it's going to be a thorn in your side. They're going to be trouble. Just don't get caught up in their riffraff. Just follow God. And just like we've always been, just follow God because God will provide. He's always provided. He's never failed. He did what he's promised. Just stay with God. And then I'm about to run out of time. Where are we? Actually, I'm gonna run out of time, so we'll pick up next week where we left off. It'll be chapter 24, verse